James Maury Henson was born in 1936, which was before television, and then television came out and the world was never the same.
Oh, well, I've got a dream too, but it's about singing and dancing and making people happy. That's the kind of dream that gets better the more people you share it with.
They formed what people in Washington now know as the Muppets. A little different than a puppet. And you folks in Washington, D.C. know them very well. They've been appearing there over WRC-TV for 2.5 years.
In 1950, Jim Henson got a hold of a probably tiny-ass television. Jimmy loved the telly. Jimmy wanted to be seen on that probably tiny-ass television. In 1954, he saw a job opportunity to be a puppeteer for segments on a short-lived Washington, D.C. local Saturday morning children's show. But he was a minor at the time, and that show got canceled for violating child labor laws. But even if Jimmy was out of a job, that didn't matter because he got work elsewhere. This man was such a gangsta that he called his puppets Muppets and just altered the spelling and everyone complied. Big pimpin'. Speaking of pimpin', he met Jane Neville in college and he was getting pussy, but not until 1959. She helped develop Muppet skits benefiting the hustle, with their next segments being a part of a variety program simply titled Afternoon. But then their next big break was Sam and Friends, starring Sam and his friends, one of which is like this weird turquoise monster. Most of Sam and Friends consist of lip-syncing to pre-existing songs with special effects, although there are original covers, sketch segments, and sponsorship segments as well.
Oh, black magic has me in a spell. Oh, black magic that you weave so well.
By 1956, the Muppets were enough of a spectacle to appear on TV beyond DC. First on the Steve Allen Show, a big dog talk show of the time. Afterward, Jim and Jane would create advertisements, which you may recognize because they've been taken out of context a lot on the internet. These advertisements were for Wilkins coffee. They're notable for their practical slapstick, starring the duo of Wilkins and Wontkins. Wilkins likes Wilkins coffee, but Wontkins won't drink Wilkins coffee. Wilkins will often proceed to commit first-degree murder towards Wontkins' distaste.
Okay, buddy, what do you think of Wilkins coffee? I never tasted it. Now, what do you think of Wilkins?
But the part the internet goes apeshit over is seeing Kermit kill somebody, but that's not Kermit. Wilkins is a copy-paste of Kermit from Sam and Friends with a similar design and voice. It's often put into the context, early Kermit killed people? But Kermit had already existed as a friend of Sam. This shit is ancient, and the company they were designed for was a local brand and went out of business in 1992. So congrats, now you know the context behind Kermit killed people in the 50s videos. Speaking of advertisements, this shitty, unnecessarily long miniseries is brought to you by Ko-Fi, a service that allows the Dr. X Henry Show to be supported directly because YouTube hates art and poor people. They will take any opportunity to snatch dollars from people who give their site traction. This helps me not be homeless and make more episodes. For a small monthly fee, you can get early previews and behind-the-scenes stuff and new shitty videos, as well as just tip the show directly. A tremendous deal for sociopaths who watch this garbage, link in the description below. At the time, Jim and Jane got married and had a child, with a developing ambition to possibly go bigger than talk shows in Washington, D.C. After the couple's first child, Lisa, Jane would take a step down from consistently puppeteering for motherhood, although she did remain a creative consultant, a background Muppet performer on Sesame Street up until the 80s, and a talent recruitant for Jim. So Henson had to find other puppeteers, and over the following years he was able to network with others and assemble the crew of Frank Oz, Dave Goelz, Jerry Nelson, Carol Spinney, Jerry Jewell, and Richard Hunt. Jerry Jewell is an overlooked figure in the Muppet lore because he was not actually a puppeteer, but he was the head writer of countless Muppet projects throughout his life. So the team hit the Big Apple and made more commercials and failed television pilots. Another reoccurring mascot around the time was the Purina Dog Chow mascot Rolf, with his sidekick Baskerville. For a brief period of 1962 to 1963, the duo had a similar dynamic to Wilkins and Wontkins, but without the violence since these are puppy dogs. Both characters in the commercials were voiced by Henson. The duo utilizes Henson's two main voices, with the high-pitched talking voice and the gravelly voice.
Now, Baskerville, in this commercial, when I say, chow time, you leap from the package and run towards the camera, right?
Right.
Okay. Lights, camera, chow time! Cut! Now what's the trouble, Baskerville?
Which you may notice Henson would proceed to use a lot and would become the standard for Rolf and Kermit's voices. Get ready to hear those two voices a lot. Rolf would later be a singer on the Jimmy Dean Show. Yes, the microwavable egg sandwich guy. But now it's the 60s and the civil rights movement was in full swing, and an activist named Joan Gaz Cooney discovered the local Muppet crew.
What you eating?
A sandwich made with Clausen's bread. Want a bite?
Sure.
The only Muppet crew. During the civil rights movement, Cooney was known for New York's first ever children's educational channel. She saw the potential in utilizing the mainstreaming of television to teach lessons to children. Cooney liked Henson and Company's unique ability to market, and she figured, why not create advertisements of educational concepts, selling letters and numbers instead of bread and coffee.
Give me some party line coffee. How about some Wilkins, comrade? That's capitalist coffee, you traitor. Send 2 pounds to the back door.
But getting this epic Cooney-Henson collab took a while and a whole lot of cheddar. So in the meantime, Henson and Company created a trilogy of TV specials, being comical retelling of fairy tales. This trilogy is now referred to as Tales from Muppet Land, the first of which being Hey Cinderella in 1969. The trilogy featured everybody's favorite turquoise monster thing named Kermit, but this time as a frog, parodying The Princess and the Frog in multiple instances. This Frog Kermit parody variant became permanent. The trilogy also introducing Robin the Frog, Sweetums, and the Muppet Chickens. These goofy Muppets sure were good at getting children's attention, but Henson desired a position to use the Muppets for a more adult demographic.
This children's television workshop show because us Muppets are gonna be on it every day.
Hold it. Okay, hold everything here. Wait a minute. Cool it. What was that last part?
I said that us Muppets are gonna be part of the children's television workshop TV show.
But Cooney wanted the Muppets to be included in the exact opposite place, as residents of Sesame Street, a show she was trying to get off the ground. Amongst the creation of new characters, Kermit would also appear as a resident and in the pitch reel to get the show off the ground, along with Rolf the dog.
Why don't you call your show Sesame Street?
My entire career as a TV educator nipped in the...
New characters created for the show included Ernie, Bert, Cookie Monster, Big Bird, Count Von Count, and Oscar the Grouch. But those characters were just for the Muppet segments of the show. Given the show's civil rights creator background, it included diverse realism and an inner-city setting, attempting to combat many poor literacy rates in ethnic backgrounds at the time. The inner-city blues was free to watch on television, creating a form of free education and entertainment, a progressive standard for television at the time, which given the culture wars it inevitably faced critics. However, there was one pro-representation controversy, the Muppet Roosevelt Franklin. Roosevelt Franklin is one of the few obscure Muppets that was intentionally abandoned rather than progressively phased out. Roosevelt Franklin was played by Matt Robinson, the original actor for reoccurring human resident Gordon.
Now where is that Roosevelt Franklin?
Somebody call me by my first and last name.
Yes,
And he speaked in jive and educated his fellow classmates about black history. The segments were kind of blaxploitation-ish.
Who knows what Africa looks like?
I do. I do too. I know everything. I know all about Africa. It's a jungle, just one big jungle. I know because I saw it all in the Tarzan movie.
A Tarzan movie.
Will you listen right?
Wrong.
A more prominent genre of the 70s that some deemed as black empowerment and others deemed as harmful. He was popular enough to get merchandise, including the first Sesame Street Muppet solo album, which excludes other cast members, and multi-character albums. This arguably created a bad behavioral example with the use of jive talk and scatting frequently in songs.
Man, I'm too cool to cry. Well, yeah, I can dig that. But how is anybody gonna know that you really hurt?
And after 7 seasons, he disappeared. The segments aren't malicious, and Elmo's English was way more broken and was also played by a black guy originally, Kevin Clash. So I wouldn't be surprised if Elmo was also abandoned if he was introduced in the 70s. On the less controversial side, Sesame Street is not ridiculously filled with kooky crap either. The ghetto setting is realistic enough and is a laid-back product of its time. It's a 70s show in the best way possible. The charm, practical craftsmanship, and consideration saturation towards its demographic in the first 20 years or so is unmatched. As an adult, it's great to watch in small pieces on YouTube. The Kermit and Cookie Monster scenes reoccurring throughout season 1 are comedy gold.
That's how mad I am.
Oh, Froggy!
And furthermore, I'm gonna tell your mother on you.
Oh, not my mommy!
Mother, and your mother's not gonna let you come here anymore.
Froggy, please, Froggy, not my mommy.
I'm gonna tell your mommy.
Oh, I'd be so sad.
You're gonna be sad?
So sad if you tell my mommy. So sad.
You really be sad?
One of my favorite bits is the sketch The Great Cookie Thief from season 2, a sketch about teaching identification.
No, not same person. No.
Oh, yeah?
No.
Well, just look up at that wanted poster there. See there? That's
nice.
A picture of the great cookie thief. He's got big bobbly eyes and blue shaggy fur and a big western hat. Looks just exactly like you.
Yeah, you're right, but not have same mustache.
Mustache?
Yeah.
You ain't got no mustache.
The show in its earlier years is also known for a handful of what the f*** segments.
You think she'd at least take us for a walk or something?
You want to play ball, Wanda?
No. Here we go again. Boy, you know it. Another afternoon with cookie crumbs falling all over us.
It was made by hippies, what do you expect? It's just a giant rabbit chasing children, like, what was the point of that? Was that even finished? Can't forget Count to 10 with Nobody, a sketch reincorporating Henson's string puppet Muppet Nobody.
Over the years, I've been able to organize. Now, in this part of my brain, for instance, I keep thoughts about my family.
Yeah, let's make that PG and make him count to 10. Who cares if he smacks his lips like a serial killer in the original short?
And we will try to count how many dots go by. 1, 2, 3.
Lots of early episodes aren't widely available. Due to the total runtime and its availability, it's one of those rare shows you can't finish. From the first 8 years, there are 53 episodes currently considered lost, seasons 2 and 3 both having over 20 missing episodes. And even if a handful are only documented as missing, good luck actually gathering the rest of the 4,600 plus to view. However, one since recovered lost episode was an urban legend turned former lost media holy grail. The Wicked Witch episode, episode 847 from 1976. The episode consisting of segments with the late Margaret Hamilton reprising her role as the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz 1939 film, 37 years after the film's release, losing her broom on Sesame Street and attempting to get it back. In this crossover, these sketches encourage respect and cooperation, given that the witch is wicked.
See, look, why don't you get out of here?
Not without my broom!
No, you can't have your broom until you show me a little respect.
Who says?
I say!
David...
The episode was banned for being too scary as a result of complaints from parents, although the outrage could be more attributed to the presence of witchcraft rather than frightening imagery. But once the internet got a hold of it, it was no urban legend. One promotional photo of Hamilton with Oscar the Grouch being available for as long as the internet. Due to it being outright banned pre-internet, the possibility of frightening imagery made it desired. It was an elusive piece of documented lost media. It was no urban legend. And I have to admit, as somebody who had been following others' efforts to try to find it for years, as it was a holy grail lost media even more than Peppermint Park Volume 6, when it was found, there was nothing really scary about it. Yeah, there's a green witch, but that was satanic in a lot of parents' views, probably. Carol Spinney himself said it was one of his favorite episodes, which is a bold claim considering he worked on Sesame Street for 49 years and the public can't even watch it. But you want to know who thought this controversy was completely f***ing stupid? Mr. Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
Margaret Hamilton got to appear on multiple episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Rogers had the advantage of producing episodes in quick succession to response of recent world events that may affect children. Given that the show consisted of mostly just discussion, it allowed for quicker episode production, the first season alone having 130 episodes. Topics like war were discussed shortly after the United States invasion of Grenada in 1983, racial inequality in 1969, shortly after the Civil Rights Movement, 9 days after the Wicked Witch visited Sesame Street on air.
One of the movies that she played in was called The Wizard of Oz, and she played the part of the Wicked Witch of the West.
Margaret Hamilton was brought onto the show in an attempt to teach the differences between fiction and reality, showing Hamilton with and without her costume, emphasis on costume. But for 1970, Sesame Street was the biggest hit for the Muppets yet. But it wasn't the Jim Show, it was the Cooney Show, with the bread and butter created by Jim and friends. In 1970, the Henson Company premiered the special The Great Santa Claus Switch, which was acclaimed at release, but is more well known for its precursors it's created. The villains minions of the Frackles and the design of the cigar box Frackle.
These other assorted evil-looking characters around here, these are my Frackles. Yeah. I'm pleased to meet you.
Are you really Santa Claus?
Well, yes, I am. Would you like old Santa Claus to bring you something for Christmas?
No, I'd like a baseball mitt.
Well, have you been a good boy?
Sesame Street continued to immortal success, but what wasn't successful was an intended Muppet Broadway musical. Investors continuously rejected the idea on the basis that Sesame Street, a preschool show, was successful, viewing the Muppets for preschoolers only, meaning that Sesame Street's success was simultaneously the best and worst thing to happen to the Muppet team yet. Since the Broadway show went nowhere, the team went back to television to try and get a weekly Muppet Show off the ground. A pilot was successfully funded thanks to a then nobody, Michael Eisner, a foreshadowing of the horror to come. This pilot was a special titled The Muppet Valentine Show, taking notes from Sesame Street with the variety format of short skits. Hosted by Wally, a screenwriter with his team of wacky Muppets, most of which are familiar faces up until this point. Additionally, guest starring actress Mia Farrow, often recognized for her short marriage to Frank Sinatra. The special was well received and created the potential of more Muppet holiday specials beyond Valentine's Day. Being given more work, the Muppets got to appear on the Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass self-titled TV show featuring a new character, Miss Piggy.
Softic figure. She's a pretty foxy-looking young lady. You know what I mean, Herbie, huh? Piggy, come on in here, Piggy. Herbie, I'd like you to meet Piggy. Piggy doll, this is Herbie, baby. This is your ladder to success, Piggy doll. I've been telling him all about you.
Hello, Mr. Alpert.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But with the Muppet Show pilot/special, there was a further attempt of trying to be successful while being different from Sesame Street. The next pilot was titled The Muppet Show Sex and Violence, hosted by a new Muppet, Nigel. Sex introduced some notable new characters, including the Swedish Chef, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, Sam the Eagle, and Statler and Waldorf. Big Bird, Kermit, Rolf, and Bert would additionally make cameos. Kermit and Rolf's appearances being crucial to the next iteration. Yo, it's Charlie! The special was poorly received in terms of audience reception and didn't disprove the main thing that got the previous specials nowhere. The Muppets are for preschoolers, punk. But the team didn't listen, and they were given another opportunity to appear on Saturday Night Live, an upcoming comedy series parodying American culture, socially and politically. The Muppet segments were titled The Land of Gorch, these Muppets featuring a much more complicated and grotesque designs. The actual Land of Gorch segments were written by SNL writers and not Jerry Jewell and Company, leading to poor reception of these characters not really acting like Muppets regardless of the mature aspects of the source material.
Says, P.S. be mine tonight, your slave in love, Scred. On and down at the bottom says, P.S. XXXX.
The aspects of song covers was continued. The Gorch Muppets would often interact with the celebrity host of each SNL episode. On the first season of SNL, the Land of Gorch Muppet segments would appear in 17 of the 24 episodes, then never again, further cementing the executive consensus that the Muppets were for preschoolers, punk. But a producer named Lou Grade saw a potential in the Muppets not being for preschoolers, leading to the Muppet Show.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Shirley Bassey! Yeah!
Heavily taking notes from the previous 2 pilots, each episode being built around a very special guest getting to interact with the puppets through sketches and song. The Muppets still having an intention to appeal to adults, but this intention shifted to include the target audience of all ages to retain a balance between preschoolers and parents. Sesame Street has a ton to appreciate as an adult, but preschoolers are the target demographic at the end of the day. This neutral approach allowing the appeal of Sesame Street and the intended appeal of the previous failed Muppet mature projects. The Muppet Show cast would essentially be a greatest hits compilation of pre-existing characters with some new additions, including new iterations of pre-existing characters like the cigar box Frackle making his debut as Gonzo the Great, also marking the debut of Scooter and Fozzie Bear. Nigel would be downgraded from host to an orchestra conductor without prominent focus, but creating the right host would be integral to succeeding with the concept. Nigel's role would be so heavily reduced that in the special guest Juliet Prowse episode, there's a sketch where Kermit is conducting a choir and not the theater conductor. Rolf and Kermit being the 2 oldest and most popular Muppets featured on the show. Kermit was chosen as the main host. Kermit already having a most notable role as a resident of Sesame Street, often being placed with Cookie Monster. Kermit being different from Bert, who was aggravated but tolerated Ernie's shenanigans.
Thirsty.
All right. One more glass of water.
Oh, Bert.
One more glass of water.
And Oscar, who showed no sign of ever not being upset. Kermit also had a reoccurring role as Sesame Street news reporter.
Kermit the Frog! Bill Cosby! What are you...
Satirizing news station programs allowing the teaching of emotions. Kermit had the tendency to display disciplinary anger towards Cookie Monster, often benefiting the informative concepts of the sketches relating to emotion.
You can tell I'm mad by the kind of things that I say to the monster, like this. You big dumb stupid rotten monster! You make me so mad I don't believe it!
One of the most famous Muppet songs, Bein' Green, written by Joe Raposo for Kermit on Sesame Street, has an emotional edge to it, where over the course of the song, Kermit displays his insecurities towards his appearance. Through self-reflection, Kermit acknowledges his green appearance and he is insecure that he's not a more vibrant color, but then identifies the positive aspects of the color, and begins to appreciate those positive aspects in spite of the flaw of lack of vibrance in some scenarios, simplifying the physical and emotional insecurities into colors that we may have, flawlessly executing the moral of appreciating one's unique aspects in a way that a child could understand. The substance of Kermit's emotions had him be way more multidimensional than many of the other Sesame Street Muppets, being emotional to teach emotion, so why not use this popular emotional character for comedy?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Piggy. I'm going to fire you. Piggy, you are fired. You are fired. Piggy, you are fired. Fired. You're kidding. I am not kidding.
Fitting the opportunity for adult appeal by not oversimplifying characters. Kermit's personality being retained and here trying to maintain the management of various zany vaudeville acts. Rolf being an established and popular character prior also got his own segments, unlike Valentine's and Sex. Over the next 5 seasons, given that the show often focused on a vaudeville show within a show, the guests on most but not all instances had musical backgrounds, including notable recording artists and notable musical actors. Technically being similar to many of the musical variety hours with the twist of starring puppets called Muppets. Taking another note from Sam and Friends, the musical segments were covers often with a twist relevant to the narrative of what was being covered. One of my favorite segments is Janice's cover of The Beatles' With a Little Help from My Friends. The twist here is that the song is used as a cry for help with the electric mayhem rather than a declaration of gratitude. While being held hostage by an ancient creature, changing the song genre combined with the technically impressive and absurdist imagery makes for a funny and unique repurpose, and the show does this constantly. Not all the musical segments are super absurd, but the more simple ones are typically still funny. The cover of Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover has no practical ape shit stuff, but Rizzo on the cymbals just looks so f***ing stupid that it's hilarious.
Are you sure it isn't 50 Ways to Love Your Lever?
Positive.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Many of the musician guest episodes feature semi-new versions of pre-existing songs, the inclusions of Muppets for a new take. Sometimes doing Muppet duets, Muppet backing vocals, or just doing a verse. Really just making Muppetized music videos of familiar tunes. The show had a share of gimmick episodes often built around the very special guests. The Vincent Price and Alice Cooper episodes having more horror-themed episodes. The Loretta Lynn episode having the vaudeville shenanigans being unexpectedly restricted to performing in a train station.
Hey, you know who's conducting? The conductor!
The Lynn Redgrove episode having a medieval setting, the Brookie Shields episode being a Alice in Wonderland spoof, the Stars of Star Wars episode serving as a crossover episode featuring the Star Wars cast in character as well as Luke's cousin Mark Hamill. This is a funny parallel given that Frank Oz performed as Yoda in the upcoming event of the summer, The Empire Strikes Back, Henson originally being offered to play the role by George Lucas himself. And this was 1980, so Star Wars was a big deal, but not quite the entire pillar of pop culture that it is today, or at least before Disney got a hold of it. The episode features the Muppets and the Star Wars cast singing When You Wish Upon a Star from Disney's Pinocchio, a foreshadowing of the horror to come. Previously developed musical sketch formats were also included. The cover of Menomina, originally from the film Swedish Heaven and Hell, had been previously performed on Sesame Street Season 1 and The Ed Sullivan Show, having a more developed version of the visuals appear in the Juliet Prowse episode, as well as the Muppet Country trio of Jim, Frank, and Jerry being self-inserts of Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Jerry Nelson, which had previously appeared on the Dick Cavett Show and Sex and Violence. Season 1 had actress Candice Bergen as guest star, but by Season 2, Candice's father, who was part of the most notable ventriloquial duo of all time, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, appeared as guest stars, a testament to the success of the first season by the end of its run, the episode serving as a crossover between two notable puppet acts. During Season 3, one of the most important cast members, Steve Whitmire, joined the cast, playing many new additions, first appearing as the puppeteer for Thog in special guest Alice Cooper. Steve Whitmire claimed that he wrote to Henson when Sesame Street started airing, and he actually wrote back to this random 10-year-old. Continuing his intended profession, Whitmire would acquire the nickname Kermit while in high school. Motivated by that enthusiasm, his dream came true and he got to work with him. Steve playing Rizzo the Rat and Lips, the new member of the Electric Mayhem. Other beloved cast additions after Season 1 include Beaker, Lou Zealand, and Uncle Deadly. It's weird to think that Bunsen was originally designed without Beaker to interact with, unlike Ernie and Bert, considering how popular the duo became. Uncle Deadly didn't appear much after 1979, but the character has since gained a cult following amongst the Muppet cast, and is now popular enough to appear in more recent years and have his own social media accounts. Special guest Bernadette Peters marked the first instance of a reoccurring cover of Just One Person. The song was originally from Snoopy the Musical, based on the Peanuts comic strip that first debuted in 1975, which would later receive a TV special adaptation as the 35th Peanuts TV special. But the Muppets truly made the song famous in 1977, since it predates the official adaptation of Snoopy the Musical, which brought it to primetime TV. The song would later appear in a special Sesame Street Christmas in 1978, not to be confused with Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, also released in 1978. Yes, there were two Sesame Street Christmas specials released with similar titles in the same month. A special Sesame Street Christmas features the human cast trying to get Oscar to appreciate Christmas. Not to be confused with A Sesame Street Christmas Carol, further not to be confused with The Muppet Christmas Carol. Just One Person would later be performed live on tons of instances, as well as Elmo getting a solo cover. It's a simple but great number about the positive impact you can have on others as a result of faith of oneself. One thing to note about the show is that it's never once fully been widely available. The show was syndicated for decades after its original run, so that was the primary way to watch it after its run. There was one VHS which was a compilation titled The Muppet Show Monster Laughs with Vincent Price, containing the title Stars episode and additionally special guest Alice Cooper to serve as sort of a horror compilation. Price and Cooper had coincidentally also worked together on Cooper's LP Welcome to My Nightmare. The VHS does remove the cover of The Beatles' I'm Looking Looking Through You, and Carole King's You've Got a Friend from special guest Vincent Price because of song copyright complications. In addition to Robin the Frog's solo cover of Judy Garland's Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz from the Alice Cooper episode was also removed from the tape. But in 2001, a series of greatest hit compilation VHSs were released, but this was still before the age of complete series and season box sets, and the entire series was not available on home media. But then the series would receive a DVD release of Season 1 in 2005, Season 2 in 2006, and Season 3 in 2004. And a Season 4 release was teased, but was cancelled, and nothing was ever conceived for Season 5. But then in late 2019, on Disney Plus, it became available to watch, but not every episode. Disney pulled special guest Chris Langham because in 2007 he was charged with possession of child sexual abuse material, and special guest Brooke Shields' episodes were not available because of securing the music rights of We're Off to See the Wizard, also from The Wizard of Oz. There's also a handful of documented missing scenes from other episodes because of other copyright complications. Season 1 obviously wasn't an overnight hit, but by the end of its run and by Season 2, The Muppet Show had become an international phenomenon. So Jim figured, why not make a movie? The movie based off The Muppet Show would be simultaneously produced with The Muppet Show Season 3. Henson would not direct, that job would be given to James Farley. Given the increased narrative scale, the Muppets would have to leave the theater, and test shoots began to display how the Muppets would appear outside of their typical confines.
Think about the way to Hollywood. Hollywood, California? No, it's over near Los Angeles. Have you ever been to Los Angeles?
The Muppet movie is fucking peak cinema for all ages, accomplishing so much more than you'd expect for a movie based off a TV show. The direction of the movie was to create an origin story, which was sort of a tie-in with The Muppet Show given that it only utilizes the specific ensemble seen previously. The film succeeds as a comedy by perfectly using its established signature brand in a feature-length narrative, dodging a potential issue of it not feeling like an extended episode. It's just full of shit that keeps you off guard and takes a few extra seconds to process and laugh at.
No, the price on the sticker is the price you pay, and never more and never less.
We'll take that one for $11.95.
The characters consistently always saying and doing shit beyond expected. It's hilarious and retains the comedy of its predecessor. This isn't the Muppets at its most goofy either, so there's probably way more for adults to laugh at despite not really even having adult jokes. Maybe I would have hated this movie as a kid, I wouldn't know, I never saw it then. I'd barely seen any Muppets before middle school, but I was exposed to them due to the failure of Peppermint Park, which was becoming completely found media in 2017 and 18.
Hi gang, it's me, Ernie. Today on Peppermint Park, we're introducing the letter M. It's such a great letter. Just think of all the words that start with M.
Yeah, by the 80s, lots of unintentionally disturbing Muppet-inspired shows started getting made.
There are so many nice toys and books to choose from. Jesus, please give me wisdom and show me which toy you would like David to have. Oh, look, a little red bus.
The film has great meta-humor, which is refreshing to watch given that we live in a post-Rick and Morty world, where it's just been completely run to the ground and lost all charm.
Oh, We're in a YouTube video.
Having a road trip plot may seem like a disadvantage, but it's the first of many instances of Muppet plots using simplicity to its benefit, so the simplicity isn't an issue in the end. In fact, the various stops along the way aren't even ape shit. It's the humor and heart that truly elevates the narrative. Kermit's constant motivation to find success but refusal to sell out and the challenges that come with maintaining integrity are truly the heart of the movie. The conclusion is also emotional, not as a goodbye, but rather a joyful accomplishment. Not because the characters got there, but because it's a representation of the victory lap for Henson and Company. Featuring 250 characters they'd made in the past 20 or so years, hence to why almost everybody is here. It's an impressive technical feat to have 250 plus puppets on screen singing all at once, but it's also an emotional representation of the people that made the dream coming true. You can cry and feel happy for the characters and be sad that the movie's over. A combination of where it's happy, sad, and just really cool to look at. And if you couldn't tell, the entire movie is a comical oversimplification of the Muppets' history up until the point where they got their own movie. Henson does his thing, Henson meets Jane and Oz, then the rest of the gang, and then they hustle their way to the top. But you don't need to know any of the real-world parallels to still enjoy the movie. The simple plot is also benefited by its music. The musical numbers were written by Paul Williams, who had previously been a special guest on The Muppet Show and had written songs for Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, another Henson Company special which gained a cult following years later. The songs are great and retain the consistent theme of the psychological definition of a dream. Rainbow Connection, despite being a very simple opening number, is one of the many highlights of the film since it is such an emotional number. It does a great job of establishing Kermit's motivation, further narratively establishing a familiar layer of depth to the character, but here even more complex amongst a 90-minute adventure narrative. Rainbow Connection I consider one of the greatest songs ever written, and it's sung by a frog made of felt. The other numbers are great too, balancing the heart and the humor, much like the plot of the movie, with goofy numbers like Can You Picture That and somber numbers like I'm Going to Go Back There Someday, all relating to the optimism of making one's fantasies realities. You can tell it was made before the invention of CG, and the team was always trying to come up with crazy visuals to be done practically. The amount of full body shots of the characters is commendable and technically impressive, and the other aspects like the practical slapstick isn't obnoxious and looks great visually. The cinematography consistently utilizing the real world or recreations of it as much as possible. You get to see a journey across the US beautifully presented. The celebrity cameos are used sparingly and don't disrupt the plot. Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy are seen once again with a cameo, given that he was important as an influence of Henson's and to the art of puppetry. Bergen passed away in 1978 before the release of the movie, making his appearance posthumous. The film was later dedicated to his, quote, memory and magic. The late Orson Welles additionally makes a cameo. Orson Welles is one of the most influential directors and actors in film history. The man behind Citizen Kane, which many cite as the greatest movie ever made. I don't, but others do.
Oh, hi there. I'm going to audition for Lou Lord.
Yeah. His cameo being named Lou Lord, which serves as an insert of Lou Grade, benefiting the comical oversimplification with his faith of the Muppet TV show. The fact that Orson Welles was even in the movie being yet another testament to how far the Muppets as an intellectual property had come. The only real issue I have as a result of the simplicity of the plot is the way Piggy is utilized. Most of the romance plots throughout the Muppets chronology are not well handled. Piggy doesn't do that much crucial to the plot, not really affecting the conclusion of getting the standard rich and famous contract, so it's kind of filler. There's also a Confederate flag in the background, in like a referencing American history way, not a hateful way, but there's a Confederate flag in the background, as well as the Johnny Cash episode of The Muppet Show. The Muppet movie was a huge hit, making $52 million on an $8 million budget, nearly quadruple its budget, and The Muppet Show continued for 3 more seasons. Fearing that the immense success of the show may make it evergreen and subsequently stale from sheer quantity, the 5th season would be final. But just because the show would wrap up, that didn't mean the beloved characters would disappear, and the success of the Muppet movie would create the priority of more movie adventures for Kermit and the gang.
This is the color red.
Wait a minute, Piggle.
What?
Was this a working stoplight when you got it?
Yeah, why?
Exactly where did you get it from?
Well, from that big pole on the corner, just outside. Why?
Piggle, that light was very important on that pole.